sincerity. Allah knows my state, and He is needless of me asking. If He wants, He can burn me and render me to ashes, and if He wants, He can turn the pits of Namrud into a garden of roses. That level of sincerity, inner sincerity. What we don't understand about sincerity is that it is actually an inner point of removal of everything which is alien to an untarnished condition. So when it comes to that level of sincerity, we can approach Allah and say to Allah, I don't understand. The world that I have created, you that I have envisaged, the life that I lead, the worldview that I have, the notion of right and wrong that I have, none of this makes sense. And I wish to be guided aright by you. This is the point of absolute sincerity. Now, sincerity is inconsistent with the fixed identity. I want to feed the world because I find it an inappropriate condition for humanity. I want justice to prevail because I cannot tolerate oppression and injustice. When the principle of sincerity is applied, the whole of the statement changes. For when I can't tolerate it, it is only me, the inner God, who can't tolerate it. But when sincerity comes, the statement would be like this: poverty needs to be alleviated, for it is an unbefitting state. Not that I find it an unbefitting state. Justice needs to be established, for that is the most befitting state. Not that I find it a befitting state. The I is removed from the equation, and the values are values for themselves, not because I condone a value. And that is the breaking of the inner God. Which father does not want the life of his son? Is it possible to say that Imam Hussein did not want to see Ali Akbar alive? Of course he did. But when he found a dagger implanted deep within the chest of Ali Akbar, he said, "Oh Allah, if this is your pleasure, then be it." Which man does not want victory in a battlefield? Everyone does. So did Imam Hussein. But on his last breath, he said, "Oh Allah, if you have destined to withhold assistance from me, if it is your decree and your choice that I be killed here mercilessly and on a burning thirst, then, oh Allah, grant me the ability to accept your command and be pleased with it." That is that level of sincerity that we break from within. It does not mean that we don't have ambition or desire. It means that there's an overriding principle that breaks through everything. When we arrive at that point of realization, the Prophet has said, a blessed life is encapsulated within one verse. لا تفرحوا على ما آتاكم ولا تحزنوا على ما فاتكم. Do not be overjoyed at what comes to you, and do not be grieved at what parts you and leaves you. If you can uphold this verse, then you will lead a blessed life. This is based on the principle of sincerity, that ultimately my joy and my grief are restrictions upon my untarnished self. I cannot be governed by joy and by grief. If at a point something goes, trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If at a point something comes, just know it is something which is momentary and it will depart. That brings in that inner beautiful stability. Now, when we talk about sincerity, I want to explain a point here. People wish to absolve their limitations intellectually by thinking, which is a good practice. But as we said, what we are in here is the true self. We can be the best of philosophers, yet our outlook to the world may never change. We can never be different in our mannerisms, in our morals, in our behavior. At this point in time, I am calm in front of you, composed, collected, am I not? But when I'm tested through hunger, through heat, through fear, at that point this exterior will break and you will see the real self coming out and emerging. Keep me in your gathering for the next 1 year and you will know what I truly am. When people are hungry, when the heat is increased, at that point the outer faces peel off and the inner reality comes out. How grand was that man who even after 3 days of thirst and losing everybody, with all drops of blood oozing from his body, who when he is approached by a person to forgive him, he smiles and says, I forgive you. How grand was that man? He even under the blunt blade is crying out to Allah, Anta thiqati fi kulli hali wala ma'buda siwak. You are the one I trust in every affair, in every state, and there is no Lord but you, when his throat is being cut. What a grand human he is, and how true is that person who when he sits on the chest of his opponent, and look at the level of sincerity, and he is about to behead his opponent, he is spat at and he moves away. Look at this great humanity of these people. I cry under pressure, I break under pressure, but look at these grand human beings who are made from within. Allahu Akbar. As I said, it is easy to break the moon in two. By Allah, it is easy to create the whole of this universe of Allah. It is very difficult to become that wholesome human being from within, who is not moved from righteousness and from the level of goodness of humanity. When we talk about the intellectual liberation, it is a good practice, but here is what I am truly. By Allah, I will pray 100 rakat on the night of Ramadan, and I will go outside and still curse my fellow brothers. By God, I will study the books of philosophers, mystics, read the du'as in Mafatihul Jinan, finish the Quran cover to cover, and I will still not be in a position to forgive my enemies and opponents. By Allah, I will see the death standing in front of me, but I will still not be moved from within to give my wealth in the way of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. By God, I will see Allah supply my sustenance to me when I'm involved in an earthquake and buried beneath the rubble of buildings, and yet He will feed me for 7 days beneath the rubble, and yet when I'm rescued, after that I will not have the ability to trust Allah for my tomorrow, and I will plan for the next 20 years. Even though we can break the veils through sincerity, we can say this niyyah, this intention is an adulteration with the purity of my being. We can do all of that at an intellectual level, but at the level of the core of our being, we are unmoved. The real struggle is to apply that sincerity here and to break that God which is me, to arrive in the fold of the most beloved. As Mahmud Shabistri says, take a broom and cleanse your heart of all idols before the Lord of the heart can come and occupy his seat. It is here